I hear a lot about rappers who go into the studio once and then they can all of a sudden, they never write anything down, but they've been working on this thing for years and years and years, all day long, 24/7, nothing but lyrics, nothing but. So when the time when a guy like Jay-Z gets in the studio, it's got to explode.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there is no not writing or not working on it and all this stuff. You're working on it. And so when people see things that are natural, what they say is natural is just the first time you saw it. You know what I'm saying? But behind closed doors, it's nothing but work. It's hard work until it gets into the flow.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did you fear being typecast? I feel like a lot of folks, even when they hit their stride creatively, they feel like they have to make the same thing, whether that's a YouTuber making the same video, the same format, it's an actor playing the same role. Did you feel that? And how did you fight against it?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that I was on my way to being typecast. And this is another thing. Typecasting works because it'll get you paid. Like you can actually work, you know what I mean? Because the whole thing was, okay, here I am, this big black man who, I played a killer in the CSIs, you know what I mean? They put me in these, big intimidating roles and the whole thing. But what I would do, and I knew what I could do. It's almost like you hear a song, but when you have Dolly Parton singing I Will Always Love You, and then you have Whitney Houston singing I Will Always Love You. Both are hits, but it's totally different when somebody else sings it. When I decided I was going to bring me into everything. So it's impossible to be typecast because there is no other you. There's no other Terry Crews. If I bring me into a performance, into whatever is a normal, role or whatever, I knew it would stand out. So I remember being on Malibu's Most Wanted. And here was like a funny role, but I was like a background guy. But I kept doing things that got the director's attention. Like, whoa, wait, what is this guy in the back doing? And they kept telling me to do new things and keep going and all this stuff. And another thing is at this time, for a guy like me, big, muscular and whatever, there was no big, funny, muscular guy. You were either chubby or skinny or whatever, but muscle and funny didn't work. But when I brought what I brought to it, people started to say, wait a minute, this big guy can do comedy, which was watershed at the time. No one, you got to understand, at the time, it was so new, like that White Chicks moment, people were like, wait a minute, I've never seen this before. And so I knew that was my way. Whereas everyone else wanted me to be this big, kick-ass action movie guy, I realized that my lane was going to be comedy. I was going to stay in that lane and keep doing it because it was all to myself. And I was like, I don't have to compete with anybody because I'm just being me. My wife knows that I'm a goofball. You know what I mean? She's seen it all at home. She's seen me doing it and all this stuff. And she's like, Terry, you are just literally being yourself, different parts of you in all of these roles. But the thing is, there's only one you. And that makes it absolutely, it's impossible to be typecast. It's perfect.
Yeah, that quote you have that sticks with me is that competition is the opposite of creativity.
That's right. That's right.
I love that.
I learned a long time ago, because what was happening, I remember feeling jealous. You get those things where everyone's telling you, okay, man, so-and-so has got this role, so you got to do this, you got to look like this. And I realized, man, because if I'm competing with you, I'm not creating. Instantly, I'm now put myself on another plane of just you. It's like, you know what? It's funny because people say, well, I'm not good at basketball. But but you have to understand, every new sport was created by people who are like, I'm not going to compete. I'm just going to create. And so no matter if you're not good at basketball, I'm good at tennis. So I created tennis, you know what I mean? And this is how these things get started, you know? This is how in the Olympics, they have to bring a new sport in because somebody's like, no, I'm not good at that, but I'm good at this. And I realized, always create your own sport. You know what I mean? It's wild because if you're always on someone else's playing field and you're always playing the game and the rules that they set, you'll never win. You know, the Beastie Boys have a song where they say, I play no game that I can't win. And I love that thing. You got to set yourself up to play the game that you can win every time.
I feel like another way that you changed the game was when it came to marketing and YouTube and those Old Spice commercials. I couldn't believe some of the things that you did in those videos. And I heard this story, Terry, that you were actually on set and you guys were coming up with new ideas
right
for
there.
these Old Spice commercials. And you're like signing the contracts in real time for new commercials to shoot.
At first, that is exactly what happened. This is what's so nuts.
Real quick, before we get to the rest of the interview, one thing that struck me about my conversation with Terry, both on and off the camera, is how ahead of his time he is, especially when it comes to creating content and embracing new technology like AI. But if you're like me, you don't just want to use AI to make mediocre content. You want to make it great. And that's why I recommend checking out this free guide from today's sponsor, HubSpot, on how to use generative AI to scale your content. And what I really love about this guide is that it gives some really great practical tips on how to write specific prompts to get better results using AI tools. This guide also answers questions that most people overlook, like how do you avoid plagiarism if your content is generated by AI? And does Google penalize AI content, and more? So check out the link below to get this free guide from HubSpot, which is today's sponsor. And now let's get back to it.
You know, you got to understand, when I started doing Old Spice, at the time, my managers, agents, everyone was like, it's very dangerous. Because if you do commercials, you'll get typecast, you'll be stuck in commercials. And at the time, no big stars were doing commercials because they were like, that's beneath me. It was almost like, okay, there's this hierarchy. There's movies, there's television, and then there's commercials, and then below that, there's internet. You know what I mean? That was like, listen, that hierarchy was there. And they were like, oh, you're going to do this commercial? And people look at you like, oh. But I said, dude, you remember, with the thing that I thought might work against me, it was the best thing that ever happened for me, because I did not have some acting coach or acting teacher or some acting school that was back there like, we don't do that, Terry. I'm free play land. I'm like, I'm an old football player. I don't care. And then I